Welcome back to the channel, man. Welcome back. The feds, they already knew that most of CMG, they was gonna fall under pressure, man. This is why when they picked up 42 Doug, this was a surprise to a lot of people because he was on the run and CMG had signed him, and they knew that he was supposed to be turned into the feds a long time ago. This is why a lot of people say he could have been the informant that told on Govan and Big Jook. Because a lot of people got to realize, in order for them to even get into CMG, they said you have to be against Dolph, man. And this is where they went wrong. If you guys want to get justice for Young Dolph, go ahead, hit the comment section, put LLYD for Long Live Young Dolph. Put the dolphin emoji, put RIP Flipper, King of Memphis, everything like that. And make sure you subscribe and like this video, because now the feds have really figured this whole thing out. They got the blueprint on how they set everything up. And they know 42 Doug, in order for him to be let out, because he just got out a few months ago, right before Big Jook got hit up. And the word on the street from the sources is that 42 Doug told the feds that Big Jook was the one who actually set up the Dolph hit. Because Gotti and them, they called him, they told him exactly what to say, because this is part of the plea agreement for him to be able to get out. 42 Doug, yeah, too much evidence on his whole rap sheet, and the fact that he went on the run for 6 months. They weren't going to let him out this early in just under a year. And so they knew for a fact that he was going to give up the information to take down one of three people. He was either going to tell on Gotti, which is the boss man, or he was going to tell on Big Jook, the enforcer, or he was going to tell on Govan, the mastermind. And the way that Gotti and them went to pick up 42 Doug on his first day out, they were clapping, celebrating. It was because they were happy that he didn't tell on Gotti and that he told on Govan and Big Jook. Once he told on Big Jook, it set the events in motion for Big Jook to be hit up, because they thought that when Big Jook got told on, and it's the feds that are asking the questions. So if somebody tells on you and you got a fed case you dealing with, now you have to tell too, because this is the only way that he's gonna be able to get out. Remember, Big Jook, he didn't want to have to do all the time by himself, because it wasn't his idea. It was technically, allegedly, Gotti's idea. And so once 42 Doug and the informants told on Big Jook, he was about ready to tell on Gotti, because they already raided his office. They found the phone records and the text messages going back and forth between Gotti, Big Jook, Govan, everybody that's involved, including blacyoungsta. And they knew that they were riding in that Bentley truck together. So once Big Jook's name got brought up in big letters on the feds' table, they were like, yep, this is the perfect person, because he's the right-hand man to basically the kingpin of this whole entire operation. They're trying to get the head of the snake. They're trying to get Gotti, the one who sent the money, who was the main person that was beefing with Young Dolph and kept pushing the beef and everything like that, right? And so they knew if they could get Big Jook, he's gonna tell on Gotti. This is the whole dilemma. This is why CMG was under so much scrutiny. They were breaking up. A lot of people didn't want to stick around to find out the mess that they had got themselves into. This is why blacyoungsta left. This is why moneybaggyo quit CMG. This is why Jay-Z wanted to sell the whole entire label, because it was about to fall apart. They knew that the feds had picked apart Gotti and his brother, and they were about to make them turn against each other. So once they found out that Big Jook was about to take the plea deal and the proffer agreement to tell on Gotti, and the whole operation of how Young Dolph got set up, followed, and that they got him at the interview spot where they took his keys and brought him this and that, and the information on the Bentley truck, it was so much evidence stacked against Gotti that the only way that they were able to make it out this case, or to have a chance, is if Big Jook got taken out the picture completely. And this is what raised the alarms on the feds. They said, how was their #1 informant, the right-hand man of the guy who called the whole beef between CMG, PRE, Young Dolph, and Yo Gotti. How did Yo Gotti's right-hand man, who was about to give up the information on him and solve this Young Dolph case, because the feds had everything they needed and they were going to use his statements and testimony because he was about to testify against Yo Gotti, because he wasn't going to do the time for what he put up. And so what they realized is that they took out Big Jook to prevent him from telling on Yo Gotti, because if he had went to the next meeting and gave the next story, the interview, and cooperated one more time, it would have set it up to where they got Yo Gotti in the whole story. They got the footage, they got the phone records and everything. And so they try to stop it right in its tracks. So this is why Big Jook all of a sudden surprisingly gets taken out. And who knew that he was going to be there? They were saying that he was with Yo Gotti the same day when he went to that whole funeral service, and they came out into the parking lot, and that's where the dudes hit him up. How is it that Yo Gotti was just with him just a couple hours before, 2 hours before, and then now when he gets hit up, Yo Gotti's nowhere to be found? He's back in Atlanta, back in New York, wherever he went to go with angelasimmons to hide out. And so this is why they're saying it's a lot more to this, and this whole thing just got a lot deeper, because now that they know that Big Jook was about to cooperate and tell on Yo Gotti, and then for some strange reason, Yo Gotti, his people, whoever it was, or even if it was somebody from that was sliding for Dolph, Big Jook got taken out all of a sudden. They could have even made it look like it was people sliding for Dolph, but the whole time, and it was actually people sliding for Yo Gotti to take out Big Jook, but they want to make it seem like it was Young Dolph retaliation. So they switch cars, they switch outfits, they put on what Dolph wears, they put on the PRE, everything like that. So how do you know that they actually could have slimed out Big Jook in order to prevent Yo Gotti from having to do the time and get in charge with the indictment for Young Dolph? This is how this whole thing gets crazy, because what you gotta realize is with these people that's playing around in the streets like this, the loyalty, being the tough guy, and being so whatever, it gets thrown out the window. Even somebody as tough as Big Jook, he was a whole leader in the streets. They called him the enforcer, the street general. Even a guy like that wasn't able to withstand the pressure of the feds, and he ended up telling on his own brother. And this is what got him put a target on his back. Same thing goes for blacyoungsta. When his brother got hit up, he said, you know what? There's no more loyalty. There's no more standing for Yo Gotti. He's putting himself first. He quit CMG. He told him he's going to crash out on them. Now, CMG is blacyoungsta's ops. And now they're looking for him, because they know if he gets picked up for what 42 Doug said and for what all the other people who was locked up in Memphis, because remember, the feds swept Memphis and they locked up over 300 people. And right after they did that, all of a sudden the anonymous reports start coming in saying, oh, Straight Drop did this, and this guy was the getaway driver, and this was where they got the car from, and all the info started coming out after they had locked up 300 people in Memphis on other charges. And they told them, if you could give us information leading to the capture and to the whole indictment for the Young Dolph case, that they'll let them go. And 42 Doug, he took the same offer, he took the same deal, but because he was close and he was actually inside CMG, he told on all the people except Yo Gotti, because he knew that Yo Gotti was going to be the one to come and bond him out, and he ultimately signed the deal with him. So he's still trying to show the loyalty to Yo Gotti, not knowing that Big Jook, Govan Hernandez, blacyoungsta, moneybaggyo, he was throwing all of them under the bus by giving up the Bentley truck information, by giving up the information about who put the 40K on Grove Hero head and who was the person that did what job, because 42 Doug, he knew Big Jook. They met. When Big Jook seen 42 Doug and welcomed him into CMG, he told him, if you ever have a problem in the streets, you have to come to me first. And 42 Doug sat back and he listened to everything, and he found out Big Jook is the guy that they go to when they need to do a drill, send a hit, get someone taken out, all this XYZ, ABC, so and so. And so once 42 Doug got that spotlight in his face in the interrogation room, in the Shelby County precinct, and the U.S. Marshals and the FBI feds came up and told him, allegedly, you know everything that went on here, so you got to start fessing up and telling us who did this, who did that, and what you know about CMG, the whole organization. Or you could spend the rest of your whole 20s and 30s behind the Fed bars. They gave him the option, the ultimatum. They said, you either gonna be here until you're 40 years old, in the slammer locked up behind the cage, or you could tell us this little information and we'll give you this meal and all this stuff. They gave him a whole Popeye's biscuit sandwich for his information on Yogotti and CMG, blacyoungsta, moneybaggyo, Big Jook, and Govan. But ultimately he decided that he was gonna tell and say that Big Jook was the main person. And so once the feds started to hear Big Jook's name come up 52 times in the report that 42 Doug wrote, they basically were like, okay, so now we need to get Big Jook, the right-hand man of Yogotti, to tell on Yogotti himself. Then they will have the actual reports from multiple sources, multiple victims, saying it was Yogotti. And then they ran the play. Once 42 Doug got out, they were like, okay, 42 Doug, who did you tell on while you was behind bars? Who did you speak on? Because you know they were gonna ask you about CMG and the Dolph situation. So once he told them, yeah, you know, I basically pinned it on Big Jook. Once he pinned it on Big Jook, then they said, okay, so now we need to go and get Big Jook taken out, so that way he never gives a statement to the feds. And then this whole thing just drops off right here. Stay tuned for more of the details that are coming out, because this whole thing just turned into a breaking news situation.